Hey guys, it's Hectic coming at you once again with a little commentary. Now, before we get into the meat of this video, I just want to say that I go off in this game. I think I dropped like over 50 kills, and I get like 10 deaths. So I did okay, and and there's a little bit of spawn camping. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of spawn camping, but I'm like out sniping snipers with an M4 with like a red dot sight. So I thought I did okay. You can be the judge of that. I don't take myself too seriously. It's all good. Whether you liked it or not is up to you. Now, let's dive right in here. I personally think there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to video game addiction because I see it overplayed on the news, I see it overplayed everywhere, and coming from a competitive background, I've seen people legitimately addicted to video games, and there's a huge difference between a cocaine addict and a video game addict. So, I just want to break that down for you. Now, in some cases it's not. In some cases it's people that are really trying to get a fix off of a game. They're not nothing. It's just it really is a drug, and I'm not trying to take away anything from that. I think when you have addicts, it's a complex web, but I'm going to try and break it down so that there's more understanding in this topic, at least from my perspective. Feel free to disagree with me because it is a touchy subject. This is just from my own personal experience, and hopefully I can clear this up if you're a parent of a gamer who may be addicted to video games and you're looking for advice, or if you're a friend of someone who is, or if you are yourself. And this, may be your cup of tea, it may not, but regardless, this is, just my opinion. Now, the first thing that we have to do, if we're going to really look at this objectively and try and come to a reasonable solution, is how are we going to define a video game addict versus a drug addict, okay? First thing I want to say when it comes to video game addiction is I think these people who we can classify addicted, quote unquote, to video games, is they have shitloads of energy, right? They're either very intense or, it doesn't even matter if they show it or not. They don't have to be a lively person for them to be super intense. But all of this energy that they have is being funneled into this one specific aspect of their life 24/7 or, a few hours a day, whatever you want to call it. And to say that it's bad, if we're really going to be objective about it, it's kind of honky, because when you look at life, and I'm a very spiritual person, but if you really want to be blunt about the subject, about life in general, I mean, you could say life is just a series of addictions. I mean, you could, you could work out every day of the week and be super fit and buff and get addicted, and you can get, a high off of working out. You definitely can. You talk to anyone who works out a lot, and they'll tell you about it. Or you can sit on the couch and eat Pringles 8 to 10 times a day. And you know what? You get a high off of that too. So, life is just a series of good or bad addictions, okay? They can either positively influence your life or negatively influence your life. You can agree or disagree with that, but that is one blunt way to look at the subject, okay? The other thing is that they are not similar to drug addicts, because a drug addict, there's no, what's the word, progression involved. There's no work ethic, there's no rules, there's no intelligence involved. When you see a video game addict, typically, in their mind, they're not addicted, they're getting better at something, they're progressing. And I can speak from experience, because there was a point in time when I was addicted to video games for a while. It was Ghost Recon, I think I was a little addicted for a while there, but in a video game addict's mind, it's not like they're trying to get a fix. They're trying to get better, they're trying to progress, they're trying to become the king of their realm. Right, because I can understand how it can become addicting, because you can live a really boring outside life, and then you flip on Xbox, and all of a sudden you're this elite soldier, or you're this crazy magician with this crazy power, and you can become a badass and do all sorts of crazy shit. So I get the appeal, and I get the allure, but it's not the same as a drug addict, because when you're a drug addict, you just inject the shit into your veins, or you smoke it, or whatever, and you get your feeling, and then that's it. And you can show me all the fucking brain scans you want of like, okay, well, the reward systems are the same in these various aspects. Look, you don't think those motherfuckers on Wall Street don't have some type of reward system that goes off when they just land like $1 billion in their bank account? Like, come on. Come the fuck on. Alright, I agree life is about balance, but, I mean, it is what it is. It can positively influence your life or negatively influence your life. Now, I know from experience, I've had people in the past who've been addicted to video games, and there are a multitude of ways to deal with that subject. Okay, there's a multitude of ways. But regardless, you're dealing with someone who has a lot of passion and who is really pushing in one direction of, even if it's not helpful, even if they're not growing as a person from it, in their mind, they probably are. They're rationalizing in their head why it's appropriate to do what they're doing. Okay, so, and one way that I really stayed away from being like addicted to video games is really my parents, to be 100% real with you. And I hate giving them credit because I like to do things on my own, but they really did. My dad in particular, because when I was playing video games competitively, and what I mean by that is like I was going to tournaments and stuff. He said, he told me, he said, look, everything you're doing right now in this gaming thing, because he took me to a tournament when I was like 15 or 16. I didn't have a car at the time, so he took me. And he said, look, everything you're doing right now can be reapplied to the business world or any aspect of life that you want to succeed in. And he said, I don't care if you do this, but you need to reapply the skills that you're learning here into a better, more constructive fashion. So in one conversation, not only did he say he likes what I'm doing, but he thinks it's making me a better person, and that I can reapply what I'm learning into the outside world. And there were times when, like, we got into huge fights and whatnot. I remember there was one time when he told me he was going to put my Xbox on the front lawn and burn it and dance around it. And it wasn't because I was addicted, it was because my grades sucked. And it's a completely different story. But regardless, it was still, when I look back on it, it's just fucking hilarious. But at the time, I was pretty like, what the hell? I was freaking out. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Again, when you're dealing with someone who's addicted to video games, in my opinion, especially, I'm an intense person, especially coming from me, I'm an intense person. And when someone tells me I can't do something, I just want to do it anyway, just to piss them off. I mean, that's just the way I am. When someone like really gets in my face and tells me I can't do something, I will actually push back harder. And so, if you're dealing with someone who's that intense, I don't think it's very constructive to say, look, you shouldn't be doing this or this, this, and this, and this. Typically, someone who's addicted to anything is coming at it from a sense of they don't feel good about themselves. They don't have a sense of self-worth. So they're getting that sense of self-worth externally rather than internally. And what I mean by that is they make themselves feel good through a video game rather than feeling good, by telling themselves positive things about themselves. Like, rather than loving themselves, they're trying to get it from a video game, or get it from food, or get it from, cocaine or marijuana or whatever. Well, marijuana I don't think is, a crazy drug, but you get what I'm saying here, in the sense that it's not, it's you got to be careful when you talk to someone like that, because if you push too hard, then you can really put them in a bad way. And if you're a parent or a friend of someone and you start screaming at them and giving them tough love, it could work and you could open their eyes. But then you could make them want to do it even more, and they might just say fuck you and just play video games even more. And the other thing I want to point out is that with video game addicts, again, they're progressing. In their eyes, they're in this virtual world and they're making something of themselves. They're progressing. I mean, they're learning skills that could be applied to other walks of life. And as a parent or a friend, or if you are yourself, you should realize what you're doing and try and see if that reapplies to the outside world. And the other thing is very crucial, and I think only the person who's playing the video games and is addicted to them will really understand. If you need to play the game in order to give yourself a pick-me-up, like it's like, oh, I can't get through the day unless I'm playing this game, then on some level you are addicted. If you can play the game for 8 hours a day, but at the end of the day you can put it down and not care, and then you can go a week without playing it, then you're not addicted. And it's as simple as that. You can go, if you can play for a month and then just put it down, that's perfect. And that's the way I was. People thought I was addicted to video games because I played a lot, but it was for a purpose. I had a goal, I had an objective that I wanted to pursue. I saw it no different than sports or training for a competition. That's the way I looked at it, and I would compete for money. So, and when I was addicted to video games, when I played Ghost Recon, it got to the point where, because I played so much, and I was so good, and it felt so good to be that good, that I would get my gratification. I'd make myself feel good through playing that game, and I stopped myself when I say, okay, this is not right. But one of the ways I stopped myself was I said, look, I'm so successful in this game, and I'm so good at it. Why don't I reapply that to other stuff? Why don't I get good grades? Why don't I do, this other stuff? But I had to figure that out on my own. No one told me that. And I think that's really important. I don't think that, you can help somebody unless they want to be helped. You can't help an addict unless they're ready to change themselves. Have you and if you don't believe me, then have you ever tried to like give someone advice that really doesn't want it? Or have you ever met someone who's really depressed and you're really happy and you try and pick them up and you just can't get through to them? That's because they are where they are, and unless they want your help, then it's going to be very hard to break through to them. Okay? Very hard, in my opinion. So, if you really want to break through to these people, and we can just condense it down into a few sentences, support them, show them that what they're doing is reapplicable. So, try and understand what they're doing and say, okay, well, can you reapply that in this walk of life? How can what you're doing right now make you succeed in a better way? And video games can do that under the right circumstances. It's all about perception. You can make an argument that cocaine isn't bad. And for some people say, oh, well, that's ridiculous. That's nonsensical. Stephen King, we wouldn't have Stephen King novels today if it wasn't for cocaine. We wouldn't have some of the greatest music in the last century if it weren't for crazy psychedelic drugs and cocaine and heroin and all this stuff. So there is a case to be made that this stuff isn't bad when it's used in moderation. Now, I'm not saying for you to go out and do cocaine and heroin, because chances are most normal people, we're not creative geniuses like they are. Most normal people can't handle that. And if you think you can, you probably cannot. And don't do that. That's silly, and don't be stupid. Now, my point is that you can look at video game addiction in the same light. You can change your perception on it if you're in it. You can say, look, I'm learning valuable skills here, and I can reapply these, and I can make some real fucking money. I can do this. I can have a great relationship. I can have a great body. I can do all this stuff with what I'm learning right now. Right? There's a silver lining in everything. And even when it comes to addiction, right? A cocaine addict, right? We can just compare and contrast a cocaine addict. If they're addicted, right, and you can still say, if you're a cocaine addict, if you're a drug addict, you can say, okay, well, what am I learning right now? Right? What am I really getting out of this? And if you're in that bad place, you can say, okay, well, I'm seeing what type of person I can really, turn into. I can turn into a real fucking monster, or I can turn into a really bad person, or I can really sink really low. Maybe I'm at the rock bottom, and maybe it's time to pick myself up now. I painted myself into a corner, and now it's time to pick myself up. So again, if it seems like I'm rambling a little bit, it's just because I'm not trying to step on any toes and say that video game addiction isn't real. I'm simply saying that if you see someone that's doing it, and if you're around someone that's addicted, or if you are in it yourself, realize that it's not the same as a cocaine addict, and you don't need a support group. You need to look at what you're doing. You need to look at the skills that you're building and try and reapply those to other areas of life. Okay? I figured out I wanted to be an entrepreneur from video games. It's like, what the fuck? That's what I learned from video games. All right? And I would have never learned that if it weren't for my parents telling me, look, you can reapply the skills that you're learning. And I would have never known that unless they told me. I would have been like, oh, it's just a video game. I'm just learning how to outthink people and stuff, and it's a video game world, whatever. But they told me, they said, look, this is reapplicable, so reapply it for fuck's sake. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing in college, and what I'm doing now. So, if you're a parent and you're dealing with a kid who's in it, the best thing that you can do from someone who has been in it is support them, make them feel like they're going to come out okay. Like they're going to be a success, or that what they're doing is going to in some way benefit them. Everyone loves a success story, right? Some of the greatest achievements have come from like the deepest addictions or depressions. So you never know. It's like coal. When you put too much pressure on it, it becomes a diamond. It's the same concept in this case. So, again, support, don't scream, don't yell. That's really, in my opinion, that is like a high risk, high reward move. You're kind of asking to get punched in the face, metaphorically. You could say, okay, well, tough love is definitely necessary. Well, if you've exhausted all other options, then yeah, it may be. But as your first approach, that's not smart, because you burn a bridge that you can never rebuild, right? If you scream at someone who's addicted to video games, chances are they're never gonna listen to you ever again. So you're one and done. You got one bullet in the chamber and you just wasted it, and that's it. Now, if you try and be supportive, if you try and be nice, if you try and show them the skills that are being you can reapply to, if you try and build them up, acknowledge their self-worth, and tell them that they don't need a game to feel good about themselves, and all of that doesn't work after, months of like trying different tricks of the trade, then yeah, maybe tough love is the right approach, but only when all those options are exhausted. Now, again, this is not true for everybody. Not true for everybody, because there are some people who just, look at the screen and they get obsessed with the flashing lights and just pushing the same buttons over and over again, and that I've seen it. I've seen that happen. That's real. That's real to be addicted to video games. But I think in the most part, people who think, oh, he's just sitting in his house playing video games, not in their head. And I think that's misunderstood. I think video game addiction is not as bad as people think it is. And what I mean by that is I think there's a much smaller group of people who are addicted than there really are. I think a lot of people do it because they find a lot of deep connections, because they meet a lot of really cool people, or they really like to progress in this online world and build something and it makes them feel really good about themselves because they just worked really hard and they achieved something. You do cocaine, it's not like this whole progress, set goals for yourself, try and build something type of deal. It's just like a fucking, you inject it and you're on your way. And I've never done it. So I'm just saying, guys, I'm just saying. And I hope this helps you out. And I hope that, if you're going through something similar, someone's going through something similar, this will help alleviate some of the questions that you have. And if you have more questions, feel free to contact me. But I've been talking for such a long time, and I know you guys need to get on with your day. So, guys, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay, because I enjoyed playing, and I enjoy bringing you the gameplay. And don't take me too seriously, because, it's all good at the end of the day, and let's just have a good fucking time. Alright, it's been real. Peace.